Okay, Gator fans, this is one of the crazier coaching moves I have ever seen. But don't worry, there's a quick hire to replace him by Billy Napier. So let's talk about it. So it broke a couple of days ago that Will Harris is headed to Miami. All right. So he is going to coach safeties at Miami. But Florida has very quickly made a hire to replace him. They have hired Deron Wilson, and that is according to Matt Zenitz. He is going to be returning to Florida. He was at Florida as an analyst in 2022. So very familiar with Billy's system, and he is going to come back to the Gators. So let's talk about this. Will Harris has been great for the Gators the last year. He's only been there for one season. He really turned UF secondary into one of the more respectable units that UF has. I think they've gotten so much more consistent. We've seen a lot of player development, a lot of young guys be able to kind of take that next step. And outside of that, he has been incredible as a recruiter. We're going to get to that in a minute. But, before Will Harris, we had Raymond who, came in as just this lauded coach who came with a lifetime of experience, was an incredible recruiter, supposedly was just going to be incredible in the secondary. And I don't know that we ever really saw that, right? He came in as a cornerbacks coach and then eventually became the entire DB units coach. And I don't know that we ever really saw the huge payoff either in recruiting or coaching, if we're going to be completely honest. And then we parted ways with him. It is said that he and Austin Armstrong butted heads a little bit. He did go to LSU where he's found, pretty decent success once again, but really was not, I don't think, what UF was picturing when they hired him. So we hire Will Harris from the Chargers, and he was everything we were hoping and more. This unit got better. Recruiting really, really took off. And here we are, right? UF has had a lot of change on the defensive side of the ball. We recently hired Vinny Sinceri, who, I feel like he's an interesting hire. I think that he knows what it takes to win a national championship. We know that he was at Alabama as a player and as a coach. He knows what goes into winning. He's got good NFL experience, but we kind of felt like we added him because we were allowed to increase the size of the staff, right? The rules have changed this year. Essentially anything goes. And it was a good addition when you had the room to add. But Will Harris is different, right? Losing him hurts. And I don't think that hiring Sinceri kind of makes up for losing Will Harris in any way. We have seen just so much turnover on that side of the ball this year. We're going to have a new linebackers coach, a new safeties coach. We lost Austin Armstrong, who had kind of been a staple the last couple of years, obviously losing Harris. This side of the ball improved a lot the second half of the season, but they're going to need to continue to improve if Florida is going to have the kind of season that we hope that they're going to. And now at this point with Harris gone, what is going to happen when the portal opens up? Are we going to see DBs follow Harris to Miami? Obviously, that is something that Billy is going to work incredibly hard to prevent this spring. He's going to be in each and every one of these guys' ear and try and keep him here. But all we've heard from players is that they love playing for him, right? He is a player's coach. He is young. He gets them. Obviously, like I've said several times in this video, incredibly successful recruiting wise. So is he going to have an in with pulling these guys to Miami, who we view as a rival, especially because I think the most interesting part of all of this situation is that Harris seemed to take shots on his way out the door. I'll get right back to the video. But first, I appreciate BetUS for all their support. Just quickly, make sure you are betting with them and use their code YouTube150. That'll get you a 150% sign up bonus on your first deposit. And you'll also get 125% on your next two deposits, all up to $2,000. I appreciate BetUS for their support. He tweeted, "First and foremost, I'd like to thank Billy Napier and Scott Strickland for giving me the opportunity to coach at the University of Florida. Billy, as they say, the ones who bleed together are brothers. We went through the trenches last year and pulled out one hell of a finish. With that being said, I understand that business is business and you have to do what you believe is best for the University of Florida's football program. I appreciate you. Mr. Strickland, I appreciate you always providing an open door policy and your transparency and willingness to listen. I'll definitely miss our good conversations. Gator Nation, love me or hate me, I understand. Either way, it was one cool ass season. Again, business is business. To my guys, love is an understatement. Nothing can break our bonds. When you've stacked bricks together, they could never be knocked down. And all in all, you must all know I am excited and blessed to step forward into this next opportunity. Okay, this is a lot, right? First of all, I do want to stress that this is uncommon. It is not normal for a coach on the way out the door to have this much to say. This is a business, right? You coach for lots of teams over the course of your career. The best path, the most taken path, is to just say nothing, right? You go on to the next opportunity. Hey, thanks Gators for the opportunity to wear orange and blue. I will support you guys always. Short and sweet, nothing else. This was a lot. This was a novel. The interesting part is what he said to Billy, right? He said the ones who bleed together are brothers. So he is saying like we've been through a lot, right? And he talks about them overcoming the adversity that they did last season. It was a terrible start. It was a fantastic finish. He kind of acknowledges that. But then he says business is business and you have to do what you think is best for the University of Florida. So, what did Billy do that Harris didn't necessarily agree with, right? And I have it under pretty good accord that what Billy did was keep Ron Roberts and that Harris and Ron Roberts did not get along and that there was kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say an ultimatum, but essentially Harris wasn't going to stick around if Ron Roberts was. And since Ron Roberts is still the executive coach of the defense or whatever his title is, obviously that would make the assumption that that's who Billy chose, right? So it makes it seem like maybe that is what Harris disagreed with. And I don't know that for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that that's what the situation was. But at some point, there's something that Billy did that Harris doesn't agree with. And Harris is acknowledging that Billy did what he thinks is in the best interest of the program, even if Harris doesn't necessarily think that it was the right choice. We did already get a decommitment because of this. Jalen Seatbelt Waters has decommitted class of 2026. He's from Tampa. Looks like he'll probably commit to Miami, which means he will at some point have been committed to all three of the big three. He was first committed to Florida State before flipping to Florida. This honestly doesn't bother me a whole lot. First of all, we have a whole season to go, and he may just be waiting to see who Florida hired. So we'll see if Deron Wilson is somebody that he is interested in getting to know, and if maybe, we'll end up recommitting to Florida, or if he'll follow Harris to Miami. But the way that recruiting works these days, I honestly can't put a whole lot of effort into it and attention into the next year's class because these guys are going to flip 57 times before they actually put pen to paper. So I understand that there are fans thinking that that's a loss, but these guys change their mind so much. I'm not even concerned. But what I am concerned about is what is next for Florida. So we hired Deron Wilson, who recently had taken the defensive coordinator job at Georgia State. He did previously work at Florida, as I told you in the beginning of this video, as an analyst in 2022. And then he was the DB's coach for Arkansas the last 2 years. I imagine he should probably be a good addition to the staff. He already knows this system. We know he can recruit in the SEC. He's familiar with Billy, all the guys on this staff. It's a pretty seamless transition. And hey, kudos, right? This was a fast hire. Billy moved quickly. We usually sit here and criticize the amount of time it takes for a hire to be made, but he identified who he wanted and he hired him, which also makes me wonder if he did understand that Harris was potentially looking to move on because Ron Roberts was staying. So he'd already identified who he might go after if this came to pass, right? And so I applaud the quickness. I applaud hiring somebody that UF is already familiar with and that knows the system. And I am good with this hire. I think that they may potentially look to add on from here. We are losing a really talented recruiter, and you're going to want to make up for that. And even if Deron Wilson is every bit of the coach on the field that Will Harris is, you are probably going to want to make up a little bit of that recruiting because he has been so good for UF. And you got to be careful because, like I've said, UF has a lot of change on defense. We have a new linebackers coach, new safeties coach. Harris and Armstrong are gone. There's just a lot of change for a unit that really became incredibly strong by the end of the year. And so you want to kind of continue the continuity that these players have. You want to continue the positive momentum that they are headed in. And you've got to be intentional about who you hire. But I do think you've got to kind of make a splash at the same time. I don't know that I think this is the giant deal that Florida players are, or excuse me, Florida fans are making it out to be. I liked Will Harris as a coach. I really liked Will Harris as a recruiter. I think I like Ron Roberts more. Florida's defense, and it is pure speculation when we say that Ron Roberts potentially took over as play calling halfway through the season. But we know something changed, right? We know something changed, and we know that Austin Armstrong headed out the door for a lateral, if not demotion, to take the D coordinator's job at Houston, which makes me think that maybe it was somewhat mutual, right? The person that Billy Napier put value in retaining was Ron Roberts. You can listen to all of the positive things that Florida players have to say about him. Now, maybe he and Will Harris didn't get along. That is, something that happens in coaching, right? But this is a make or break season for Coach Napier. I think he sees that Ron Roberts helped him kind of turn the corner this past season. And if you're a betting person, you've got to go with the person that called plays on that. You've got to go with the main driver, which appears to be Ron Roberts. So while you hate to see Will Harris go, if your choices are Will Harris or Ron Roberts, I fully understand the decision to back Ron Roberts. He is who's responsible for turning this defense around. I really think his influence, and Chapman as well, on the D line probably helped contribute to making those DBs look better, right? And so uh, I'm sad to see Will Harris go. I would be more sad if we were seeing Ron Roberts go. I think kind of tough choices have to be made, and that's where we are. How is this going to impact UF for next season? TBD, guys. We're going to find out who was the difference maker for this defense. Was it Will Harris or was it Ron Roberts? That's what Billy Napier is betting on. I'm assuming he's right in that aspect. I'm assuming it's Ron Roberts that did the play calling the second half of the season, and he is who was responsible for turning this around. But this all is a gamble. I like the Deron Wilson hire. I like the familiarity with the system. I like that he understands how the SEC works, and I think we'll be fine there. I am looking for Florida to add some kind of name that can move the needle recruiting wise, because you are going to have to make up for Will Harris's recruiting accoutrement, right? But I think Billy Napier will get there. And I do applaud the moving fast on the Wilson hire. I want to know what you guys think, though. Do you think this is a massive loss? Are you sad to see Harris go? Do you think it's freaking wild that he ends up at Miami? And are you circling that September 20th game like the rest of the DB unit is because of this move? I want to know. Comment down below. Once again, I want to thank BetUS for sponsoring this video, partnering with us this entire football season and now into the off season. Make sure that you are betting with BetUS. March Madness is coming up soon. You are going to want to use the code YouTube150. Let's have some fun with March Madness. Make sure that you are using BetUS. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And as always, go Gators.